I'm a world record level collector, and I've got 4 short days to take this collector's Scooby room from this to this. And here we go. It's 5:30 a.m. and I'm getting ready to head to the airport because I've been contracted to help somebody redo their collection room. Important packing. Important things only. It should be a really fun experience. Gotta do my daily quests before I leave. Very important. One Murdoch watching flight later, and I'm picked up by Alexa, a good friend of mine and the creator of the Unmasked History of Scooby-Doo podcast, and of course the owner of the collection room I'm redoing. We checked out the room and established the goals that Alexa wanted out of the room, which were to get all the Scoobies in one room if possible, make it usable, make the VHS a focal point as it's a favorite, and make sure there's a nice podcast background. I call myself an expert for a reason. I believed all these goals were possible, but we did not have a lot of time, so we quickly made a list of some things we'd need and headed out to get them. We've got our list, and our first stop is Dollarama. Oh, I did get these from myself because they're skinny, and they're just like one little table, essentially. So it's kind of like a built-in riser. Here! There we go.
Oh, I do like that.
There's also cork tiles, but I think that one looks nicer.
Yeah, it does.
Here's our frames. Got document frames, which might be good for the model sheets. Don't let us down, Marshalls. We want risers and we want scoops. Give us one of the two. One scoop. Both scoop collectors have. Okay, back here. Oh, there's one. Oh, there's some as well. Less aesthetic. One's kind of bent in the back. Yeah. That's a shame. I like how that looks.
I wish it was longer like this one.
Yeah. Though sometimes, depending on your shelf,
Yeah,
you might need that to fill something in. Look at the Dollar Tree. We got nails, paper clips, poster board, and a frame. We got back and step 1 was obvious. Clear it out. The great unloading begins. Help.
Where do we start?
Get the things off the floor first.
Are we sorting them as we put them down, or are we...
Put them down and sort them later.
Okay.
Let's do it in stages, because that way we can really see like similar shapes and everything.
Cool.
And the shapes really like, that's where stuff will nicely go together. And I get to look through everything as we go here. A good portion of this video will be voiceover because each of these steps took several hours. There's a lot of doing and redoing when making a collection room. So I wanted to leave in the time lapses, but do a voiceover to explain what I'm doing, what tips I'm applying, and how you can kind of do this thing yourself if you need to.
This is our last shot.
I'll take that with different hands.
Okay. Come back when you have different hands.
My hands are just empty hands. We cleared the collection room and also gathered everything all in one spot so that when we looked around, we knew that we were getting everything that we had to put away and we wouldn't find stuff later that we'd have to try and work in. Here we are. Scoobless, baby. Totally scoobless. Our next step now is to clean, and we're gonna move out the extra furniture so that we can build those 3 bookcases, which are going to go along that wall. I really feel like these bookcases are going to be what makes a really big difference in usable space in this room. But as we finish building, the breaker blew. Bruh. But we don't have time to stop, so I measured for something big. I guess we can move furniture in the dark.
Oh, yeah, we totally did.
I'm gonna shimmy shammy now.
What were we doing now? Still in the middle?
Yeah, now that it'll be the same height.
Ah, yes. Gotcha.
And that also means that whenever you sit at your little desk and you got your chair out, now nothing's behind you. The shelf that's the same height is behind you. Alexa did want to keep most of her old furniture if she could, so this was a way we combined 2 pieces into one to make everything look a lot more uniform.
Fuck yeah!
Hooray! Okay, walk in.
I think that's nice. Yeah, I think that's good there. Because it still gives you room to move.
Because you're walking around the treadmill too, so.
Yeah.
And then here, if you're, get your seat. Tell me if you're sitting, if you can see into that shelf.
If I'm sitting here, I can see in the shelf.
Yeah? And that's how far you'd sit away from your desk?
Yeah, probably. Like, you know, I'm working on stuff or if I'm like doing a,
This is not centered behind you. Here, I just had Alexa sit in the room and check and make sure everything was still navigatable and right before we put any items on shelves, because that's hard to change later. Let's put a mystery machine up there.
Hooray!
One of the items Alexa did not believe would get into this room is this Spirit Halloween display, but luckily enough, it fit perfectly on top of these bookcases. It was wild. Next up, I had Alexa grab her puzzles, which are some of her favorite items, and I started to give her some tips and tricks on how to make these fit. Largest at the bottom, make sure to check your labels, everything like that. With board games up as well, that's the end of day one. Right away the next morning, I started to sort everything into like item piles. That's where I gather everything of the same type in one area, and that's kind of how I start to plan out each shelf. Each pile was Alexa approved.
Our sorted piles. We got plush. We got Funkos. Stuff we didn't know what to put in a pile, but it's there. Makeup. Lunchboxes, cars, mugs, bathroom stuff, games, figures, stationery and party, the geeky tikis because those are just cool, tins, food, blankets and plush, hats, Barbie dolls, figures, schmall, bags, VHS, a favorite, Valentine's, books, and holiday, and DVDs, and then breakable things.
Then of course you need some decorative items, so we went out to find some really cool lights for the setup. Break was over really quick and we got back and started to work on additional shelves. Now this is a lot of where that trial and error comes in, because really you just gotta start putting things on shelves and seeing how you feel about it, and really you can't figure out how you feel about it until it goes up on the shelf and you take a step back. One thing you'll notice repeatedly is me trying to make different layers to use the full area of the shelf. I find this really important. You'll also see me grabbing a lot of styrofoam. That styrofoam was from the boxes of the bookcases, and I was just cutting them down to be the exact height and shape we needed to lift items up or move them over in order to better fit on the shelf. And that was just a really easy and cheap way to get these shelves looking extra fancy. Also, as we did this, we were checking with the webcam to make sure that everything looked cool and how Alexa wanted in the background of her video. This is also when we got to break out the risers that we have bought. The risers are really nice for small things, especially we use them for CDs and the small like McDonald's toys and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is a weird design. It's kind of hard to make it not look like the zombies eating Scooby's ass, so we're gonna really have to work on that one.
Some of the small things are really hard to display without risers, so they are extremely handy.
Haha! I have no idea how that works. Is that comforting? I mean, if it fits, it fits. Yeah!
Now, this wasn't going totally smoothly. There were definitely some shelves that were giving us some problems. Some of the sorted piles we had, like the items would just not all fit and stuff like that. So we had to get creative. One of my favorites was the self-care shelf, where we found like, oh, the jewelry box and the makeup and the candle. Like all these things do actually make sense together in a different way. So we were kind of playing with those kind of things whenever we ran into odds and ends. We then got to the all-important VHS section. We did know we wanted them front and center, and we did save space for them, and we started to sort through, and then we realized we would need at least 2 levels in order to be able to display all the VHS. So we used an old trick of mine. We took egg cartons, we doubled them up, and that made a perfect second layer where we could see both rows of VHS. We then zipped out to get a very important supply for the plushies.
Ooh, this is a one with pockets, which is kind of interesting. But there's the one above it, if not. The pockets would keep divided weight, which is kind of nice because it starts to droop. And if some are forced to be up, then it means it's not always drooping in the middle. So now it's a hook finding mission. Oh, I wonder where the hardware is. Will we ever find that section? There. They have the black ones, which match these guys.
Here's how we're looking at the end of day 2. We realized we have a lot of hammering and drilling to do, so nighttime is not the time for that. So we decided to rest and get ready for day 3. The good news about being 3 days in is that most things are up. The bad news is that we put all the stuff that was easy to put up already, and now we have a lot of things that we have to sort out. At this point, most of the shelves are onto what I like to call detail work, which is basically filling in spaces, making them look even, and getting the rest of the items, the stragglers, onto shelves somewhere. But they still have to look nice and make sense, so things get tricky.
Why would they make it like that?
Just to screw you over. Standing versus one singular watch.
What about like a toilet paper roll covered in something nice? Do you have any scrap?
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
This is our toilet paper roll covered in fabric to create a watch holder.
Our next challenge was our lighting.
I do think that it needs to. It's just a little bit too long.
Yeah. Always trust your consultant.
I told you to get bored! And I'm not just saying that to be right. I do think that one in the middle. Like, if you want, I'll hold it up and, like, you can move back. It's just, it's so deep that... Yeah.
We also found out this time we needed mounting tape, so it wasn't a big deal that we had to go back out.
Look, Mom. I'm Mothman.
We also picked up some small plastic cups from the dollar store to use as single item risers, and these were really helpful in the glass case.
Bro. What? I didn't do it.
At this point, there wasn't a lot left in the outside room, which was really handy, so we started to move everything we could into the room so we could really fill in those gaps nicely. We also realized that now was the best time to put up the corner light stick, and it looks so amazing. And then it was time to finally put things on the wall. I do have plans for this, but honestly, they are really confusing. It just happens to work in the end.
This is the brilliant plans.
My tip for this is easy. Measure like 4 times and only put 1 hole in the wall, okay?
There is our first gallery wall.
The second gallery wall went up way easier, should have started with it. It was all die-cast cars, so it was pretty even.
Our next mission are these 3 masks. We're just flattening the backing cards of those 2 so that they will lie like this one. Currently they bow, which means they will not hang. And we are going to hang them up this wall. This is what it'll look like once those are flat. One back out, we have more lights, some frames, a head.
It's the final day. We're right back into action because I have to fly home on this day. We have Alexa working on the lights, and I am using paper clips and shower curtain hooks to create chains in the bags and hats so we can put them on an over-the-door hook. I ran out of hooks, so we changed focus to put up the plushie net, which is basically a cargo net attached to the ceiling with hooks so we can use some space that's normally wasted. Then, while Alexa went to get more hooks, I started on more things hanging on the wall. While I did this, I made sure everything kind of started at the same point around the room to make it look cohesive. At that point, Alexa got back and started working on the books, so I took the rest of the bags and the hats and got them into their places.
Bookshelf so far. Here's our remainders.
We then got into picture hanging and art hanging mode, and there was a lot to put together, especially in this one corner, but it came together pretty cool, and I really like how the lights work on this one. We then got to the cake pan gallery wall, the most confusing wall of them all, but it did work out, so I'm taking that. How did I do it? Carefully. That's all I can say. We are now on to the final section, and that is where we are putting up the movie posters as well as some really nice equity action figures. If you're a Scooby fan, you know. And we put these up, and it was finally all together. Here is a reminder of the before of this collection room. It was overfilled, there were things on the ground, but at the same time it didn't have everything in it that needed to be in it. And here is that room now. We did complete all the goals. All the items we wanted in the room are in the room. It can be used. The VHS is a beautiful focal point, and it's an amazing podcast background. I am so excited that I was able to help Alexa with this, and this is the result. I look forward to seeing her love this room and add more Scoobies to it. One more reminder of our before, and here's our after. All in 4 days' work for a professional collector, of course.